And breaking news coming in from the top court. Supreme Court has allowed a 30-day time period to file any election petitions for the uncontested seats. That's the big breaking coming in at 10:39 a.m. first on your channel. It's a big setback for the Mamata government as the Supreme Court has allowed a 30-day time period to file any election petitions for the uncontested seats. Our legal editor Rhythm Anand Bharadwaj joining us from the top court. Rhythm, take us through all that happened.
Well, this is going to be seen as a big flow for the Mamata Banerjee government and the TMC in the state of West Bengal. What's happened today is the Supreme Court has said the Calcutta High Court had erred in the verdict it gave out. The Supreme Court saying the High Court erred in allowing e-nominations to be filed. A three-judge bench has assembled and it's pronouncing the verdict. The Supreme Court has now allowed a 30-day time period to file any election petitions for the uncontested seats. So, Aisha, at the heart of the matter was that the Calcutta High Court had allowed email nomination papers to be allowed by the State Election Commission. That was at the heart of the matter because this was completely against democracy. Every election seat had to have certain other candidates. This is what the Congress Party, the BJP and the CPIM had come to the Supreme Court and the other courts for. The Supreme Court today has stated, we do not believe it's correct. The Supreme Court says the High Court had erred. So they've gone against what the Calcutta High Court had given in the judgment and said they have erred in allowing e-nominations to be filed. What they are saying is that the West Bengal government had filed email nominations. Other parties had not been given time enough to file their nominations, and therefore these particular candidates from the TMC had won uncontested seats without political candidates from BJP, from Congress and from CPIM coming forward. All the other political parties had gone against this in violation of Democratic Party functionaries to the Calcutta High Court as well as the Supreme Court. The BJP had come to the Supreme Court and said, we have video proof to show that our candidates are not being allowed to contest elections. We are not being allowed to give our nomination papers. To this, the Supreme Court had passed a very strong verdict today where they've said that email nomination should not have been allowed by the State Election Commission. The High Court has erred in giving this forward. They've also very clearly said now we are going to allow a 30-day time period to be given after the declaration of the results of the uncontested seats. So in presence, what this really means is that I'm going to take our viewers through the to the crunching of the figures that's so important here. We are talking about a huge number of panchayat seats here. This is not, earlier remember the Supreme Court expressed short, uncontested seats were puzzling us is what the Supreme Court said. Let's tell you what the figures are. 20,178 are the seats that went uncontested. On these seats there will be a 30-day time period for all the political parties now to be filing election petitions for all these seats that went uncontested. 34% of the seats were uncontested, which is a massive figure. TMC won the uncontested seats. Candidates were allegedly blocked. This is what the BJP had told the top court. This is what the Congress had said in its pleas in the Calcutta High Court, and the CPIM has stated. CPIM had gone a step further and stated the State Election Commission in West Bengal was acting at the whims and fancies of the TMC government. The Supreme Court earlier expressed short. They said, why is it that 16,000 out of the 48,000 seats in the panchayat polls had gone uncontested? Democracy, they had said, was not working in Bengal at the grassroots level. Now I'll tell our viewers, after these statements had been made in the top court, what has happened. The Supreme Court has said it's a serious issue that a large number of seats are going uncontested, and the reason behind this should be looked into. The Supreme Court says it's important to determine whether there was any possible violence over these uncontested seats. So a massive breaking news coming in from the top court that has said we need to see whether there was violence in the panchayat elections, due to which there was a possibility that these seats were uncontested. The order by the West Bengal High Court has been, the Calcutta High Court has been set aside by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is saying it's a serious issue that there were a large number of seats that went uncontested, and this needs to be looked into. So the bigger picture that's coming out here, in the legal corridors, we're seeing a political battle brewing between the TMC on the one side, and this time the so-called opposition unity might crumble, because we've also also seen the Congress party go to the Calcutta High Court against this. The Panchayat elections is something, Suesha, we've done immense and strong detailed reporting from. The Panchayat violence in West Bengal had shaken everybody. It caused an outrage across India. Now the Supreme Court is saying it's important to determine whether there was any possible violence over these uncontested seats. We need to look into that, and therefore it's a serious issue. Look at the kind of language that the Supreme Court in its judgment today, Court 1, is giving out. It says a large number of seats are going uncontested. The reason behind this needs to be looked into. It's important to determine whether there was any possible violence over these uncontested seats. We need to tell our viewers today morning, when we spoke to the West Bengal government senior advocate Vikas Singh, he said there was no link between the violence. He in fact held the BJP government and the central government responsible for the violence. But today, after a marathon hearing, the top court has passed a verdict. A 30-day time period has been given after the declaration of results of the uncontested seats. The Supreme Court has saying the Calcutta High Court verdict that had said nomination could be filed by emails has been set aside. Let's tell our viewers what really is the verdict that has come out. Number one, the Supreme Court today has allowed declaration of results for the uncontested seats, but also allows any election petition to be filed against these seats within 30 days. So a 30-day time period has now been given to the BJP, the Congress, the CPI.
And Rhythm, I'm sorry we are having to interrupt you here, but Mr. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary is joining us on the phone line. And Mr. Chaudhary, what do you have to say about the observations that have been made by the top court? Uncontested seats and a time period of 30 days that have been given to file any election petitions for the uncontested seats. It's a big setback for the Mamata government.
See, certainly the observation of the Supreme Court vindicates the large-scale and unprecedented violence that had taken place in West Bengal during the course of Panchayat election. And accordingly, all the opposition parties, finding no other alternative, move to court, because here election has been turned into a violence-ridden election, and that is why we had flagged attention first High Court and second the Supreme Court. But the moot question is, and again we will file petition to the Supreme Court.
Right, Mr. Chaudhary, thank you for joining us here on Republic. Unfortunately, that audio line is not very clear. We will connect back with you in a short while, but this is a big breaking coming in from the top court, as a period of 30 days has been allowed to file any election petitions for the uncontested seats. There was also a mention of the violence that we witnessed during the Panchayat polls. It's a big setback for the Mamata government.